how, why, when, and why it must be immediate.
Educate a woman, you have educated a nation.
The outcome of a review of the same election are being finalized.
When you climb in the pulpit, what you say matters a lot.
Have responsibility to serve the people.
Hello and thank you for joining us here on Insights today. This is Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I'm Uyag Mofwegbe. Nigeria has seen it all, as they say, in a manner of speaking. It's been 24 years and counting. Some people say we are still experimenting with democracy. But then Nigeria is not obviously at the same point today as it was in 1999 when we returned to civil rule. However, in the middle of all of these so-called experiments, the country has had to grapple with one form of challenge or another, whether it is political, social, economic, and even some cases diplomatic. However, the country continues to win against the headwinds. In any case, in the course of the show today, our conversation will center around the evolution that this country has had to undergo in the last 2+ decades and what lies ahead. My guest on the program today to help us make sense of this is a distinguished former senator of the Federal Republic, one whose voice was vehemently heard across this country, especially where issues of national interest were concerned. Senator Mohammed Abba Aji, former liaison officer to the National Assembly, as a lawyer, former Senate Minority Whip. He also represented Borno Central between 2003 and 2007. Time will fail us to run through his profile. Distinguished Senator, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Excellent. So I'm just going to start out this conversation by asking you to share with us what some of the highlights are for you, for someone who had been a senator some 2 decades ago.
Well, as you have mentioned, I am part of the evolution as a unit, as an individual, as a member of society, also a unit in this evolving country.
Right.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But today, it will appear the National Assembly has also evolved in particular, because it doesn't appear to be that we have the same crop of senators today as we did maybe 2 decades ago. That is not by any way to say we are comparing which is better. We're saying that the National Assembly as we know it has also, evolved in very remarkable ways. How would you say that evolution is affecting democracy in Nigeria?
Well, necessarily, National Assembly members, other leaders have to be different from those of the past, because the challenges are different, the times are different. So, that's why as you have said, we're evolving. So the challenges of the former sessions of National Assembly were different from what obtains now. The world itself is changing. The world itself is going through new challenges, and we're part of the world. On the domestic front, in the past, problems of banditry, kidnapping, and all this were not even there at all. And they are new, and they are now challenges of current leaders and leadership. So this is, as you have said, part of the evolution, But, this 50 years or so of, is very short in the life of a nation, But we have lessons, ready-made lessons to learn. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are many countries that have been through these phases. There are many countries that have gone through these challenges. And we have many options of how they toiled with their problems and how they resolved them, in the past and in their own countries. Although there are contextual differences, but a lot can be borrowed, So, yes, it's a very trying time right now, yes.
Some persons have said Nigeria is in such a bad place economically and politically, in terms of governance overall, that they would rather we remained with the military. All we just had to do was to continue to drive narratives around how to develop the country. They believe ultimately that the military still would have been better than civil rule. Do you share that emotion?
Well, it's still a question of the evolution. If you are evolving,
right,
you're going in one direction, which is forward. So, yes, the military is in our past, and I have served under the military, as a civil servant, as a government official, and so on. And yes, I give credit to the military. Most of our current developments, especially those of physical infrastructure, and even the system itself was, part of the achievements of the military. They gave us the structure that we have now, of the states, of the local governments, I remember I was planning officer, during when Murtala was head of state and Obasanjo, the Murtala Obasanjo as it's come to be known. Within a short time, what they have brought was enormous. They introduced the local government reform. They introduced the state structure. Well, the state structure was there, but they amended it, to suit properly. They introduced basic health services scheme. They introduced the UPE, the Universal Primary Education. They introduced the ADP, so the Agricultural Development Program. They virtually touched on every important sector of this country within a short time. The Murtala Obasanjo administration.
This sounds great, but it raises the question of why, when Nigerians, for the most part, I'm a young man, but at least I'm sure I grew up old enough to see how grown-ups, adults, clamored against military government. Why was it?
Well, it's part of the evolution still, you see. But I remember in 1979, when, the Second Republic came on board, in 1979, up to now, people speak with nostalgia about the leadership of that time, because of the achievements. But they didn't come with any blueprint. The politicians of 1979 didn't come with any blueprint. They were given the blueprint of the Murtala Obasanjo administration. The UPE was conceived in Lagos, federally conceived, but administered in the various states using federal resources. The Universal Health, they called it Basic Health Services Scheme. Basic Health Services Scheme was, and they were integrated. They came up with local government system, and the minimum population for a local government was 150,000 people. And I remember at that time, there was only one local government that had less than 150,000 people, and it was in my state. That was Uba Askira. But because of other peculiarities of the demography, they were given the status of local government. Now, each local government was also considered by the Basic Health Services Scheme as a basic health unit, and each basic health unit was constituted of comprehensive health center at the center, that's at the local government headquarters, and then within 5 kilometer radius, there were 5 health centers. And each health center within a further 5-kilometer radius was health clinics, including a mobile health clinics for nomadic people, you know? And all this system had no single medical doctor in it.
How were they run?
They were run by a crop of primary health professionals.
In the 70s?
In the 70s. And for that, schools of health technology were established in the various states. In every state there was established a school of health technology that was producing these primary health care professionals. And the referral system was from the health clinic to the health center to the comprehensive health center, then to general hospital, and then to teaching hospital. Excellent system, entirely introduced by the military.
So how did we break that excellent system? I mean, look at where we are today with health.
And then the UPE,
Right.
Universal Primary Education, was conceived also in Lagos by the military and funded entirely by the military. So when the 79 crop of politicians came, they had a blueprint made out for them, you know. They virtually only watched it, you know, being implemented. Because the civil servants, I was a planning officer at that time in the Ministry of Health, and, you know, we frequently went to Lagos, and we were given our march. There was uniformity of implementation. So actually, the politicians did virtually nothing except they got credit, all the credit, because by the time this, you know, elegant policies began to come to fruition, they were the ones in charge. So people will tell you, oh, the 1979 governors were, you know, excellent, but none of it was conceived by them, you know.
I want to take your mind to something a bit different. I mean, Nigeria has evolved from that time to today. Let's talk about election-specific issues. We see what elections have become. I mean, back in the day of UPN and so on and so forth, people who are old enough, who have been here long enough, say that, I mean, it's like day and night, the difference between what elections were in the 70s, maybe up till early 80s, as against what we have today. Let's talk about how it will appear confidence is fast eroding as far as the political system is concerned.
Well, the systems were different. You see, the 79 Constitution, for example, did not have any educational qualification requirement for you to run for any office.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all you needed to do was to be a bona fide Nigerian.
So people, you know, the majority of Nigerians are not educated, let me put it this way. No, well, educated will not be, we're not people with degrees and things like that, you know. There are people who are educated in other systems, but politics is about you electing, you know, your own representative. Your own representative has to have attributes that are similar and values that you share, or he shares with you. So people actually voted for, and I remember Shugaba Darman, the famous Darman, you remember that, was the majority leader in my state, you know, in Borno State. And he was stark illiterate. But he performed well, you know. And his colleagues were, most of them were similar. And I remember I ran for election in 1983 when I returned from America. And I was, because at that time also the 79 Constitution was the one that was in force. And in 1983, when I returned from America with a master's degree, I was defeated in a House of Assembly election in Borno State by a butcher. Yeah.
So what were the factors responsible? You were not on the ground.
A stark illiterate butcher defeated me. So that constitution, you see, in as much as, it didn't serve my purpose in that particular aspect that I was telling you about the election, but it cannot be denied that it allowed people to elect their likes, people, you see, that's why right now people refer to people like us as the elites, and things like that. So this is a little it has isolationist attribute. For you to be regarded as an elite, that means you are not a representative of the generality of the people. Elites are usually a very small group, who others may even say that they are more after their own interests than the interests at large of the public at large. So that is what the 1979 Constitution tried to do. I don't know whether it was part of the intention of the framers of the Constitution or not, but in effect, I can say that yes, it has served the purpose of allowing people to elect people who truly share their values, who are more representative of themselves, who are actually like them, But one, such as our current Constitution, has educational requirements and so on, and you'll get people who are very much liked and respected and publicly spirited people, but they cannot be elected because they don't have educational qualification, which is a constitutional requirement. Yeah. So that is a difference, but I'm not being judgmental. I'm not saying this is better than that, but because we are talking about evolution, so this is part of how we have been evolving, at least constitutionally, yes.
I want to talk to you, or maybe I would say, I'd like you to talk to me about the Senate. I mean, that is one, if you like, part of the National Assembly. The National Assembly, the Senate in particular, continues to be immersed in controversies. It's either they are renovating the entire complex for 38 billion today, or tomorrow morning we'll wake up, they are buying SUVs of, some people say, 160 million each, which are going to be imported, by the way, and so on and so forth. Is the Senate effective as far as our democratic experience is concerned?
Well, you see, legislature generally, not just the Senate, either national, state, or local, cannot be devoid of controversy. Because these legislators, they are representatives of the people. So they are very close to the people. They are very visible to the people, Anything they do is in the public domain, Unlike the executive, like the president, the governors, and so on. Even the ministers, what they do is not as in public glare as those of the legislators. Legislators are readily accessible to the people. They see them, and also because of, they need to show their electorates that they're effective, or that they are not seat warmers. They try to talk, and sometimes talk against the position of each other, and necessarily breed controversy by design, But that is how legislature is the world over. You don't want to be regarded as a seat warmer, and therefore you have to say something. And most of what you say has to be either in support or against the position of others, or of the executive, or of your colleagues. So because of this, it is not intended to be a quiet place. It has to be engaged in controversies.
Even including controversies around people now saying that the legislature, across boards, federal, state, and local, has become a rubber stamp. Is there any truth?
That is also because they are the true representatives of the people. True in the sense that, you know, they are very close to the grassroots. They are not protected by security and so on like the governors and the president are. You can easily go and wait in the parking lot and you see him come into his car and you stop him and you can take him on as a constituent. So because of this, everything they do, you know, can be subject to scrutiny, public scrutiny. And the public, the world over, are not easily, you know, satiable, you know. You can't satisfy an electorate. No matter, even if you bend backward, you cannot. Because he still thinks you should be able to do better, you know. Yes, you have done this for healthcare, you have done, how about education, how about, you know, how about my electricity bill and so on. So it's just enormous. So there is no way out of it, you know, entirely. So people have to keep doing their best, but usually you find your best is not good enough.
Do you see a question mark, in a manner of speaking, over the independence or autonomy, if you like, of the legislature across board?
Well, autonomy as an absolute status does not exist.
How about independence as a concept and practice?
Even the independence, you see, you have one government. You know, these are compartments, you know, the legislature, the judiciary, the executive. But they are compartments of one government with one leader, one president, you know. So if you take the legislature, for example, this independence that you're talking about, the rubber stamping charges that people talk about, is in their relationship with the president, isn't it? Okay. Now, what people don't realize is that the president himself is a member of the legislature. Are you not surprised? I'm saying that the president himself is a member of the legislature, in effect, you see? Because most of the bills that go to the National Assembly are executive bills. That means they're the president's bills. And when they come, is only the leader of the chamber, either the Senate leader or the House of Representatives leader, that will present it. And when all of them have, or the majority of them, have approved it, and even when both houses have approved it, he alone can veto it, you see? And once he vetoes it, it will take 2/3 of the joint to override the veto. You can see that even the Senate president has only one vote. But the president, who does not sit physically in the chamber, has the more important vote. Because when he assents to the bill, he has effectively voted along with those who have said yay. You get me? And when he vetoes it, he has disagreed with it, then for them to override this veto, they need 2/3 of their votes. So he's not only a member of the legislature, he is the most important member of the legislature. So for the legislature to be seeming to be a rubber stamp is, I think, because people don't understand how the legislature or the executive-legislative relationship works, you see. It works in such a way that the president is their senior colleague, so to say. You know, he's a member of he's a member of both houses. The only person who is a member of the Senate and of the representatives without physically sitting there. But effectively, because he votes along with the members of House of Reps and he votes along with the members of the Senate each time he assents to the bill, agreeing with them, or each time he vetoes it, disagreeing with them.
This is interesting. Quite an eye-opening conversation here today. Thank you so very much, distinguished Senator Mohammed Dabaji, for coming to share these very valuable insights with us on the program.
You're welcome.
And that's it on Insights today, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Uyag Mofwegwe. I'll see you again.
To ask how, why, when, and why it must be immediate.
Educate a woman, you have educated a nation.
The outcome of a review of the same election are being finalized.
When you climb in the pulpit, what you say matters a lot.
Have responsibility to serve the people.